All right, this video is going to go over the quiz we just took on CG9 and the radical review 10.0 and 12.1, 12.2. I'm going to do the yellow version, that'd be version B. And if you have version A, the problems are the same. The numbers have changed and the order of some of the problems is different. Stick with me. And the problem that I need help on, we'll definitely get to. Okay, so starting with number one, a circle with center O at -2, 4 passes through point P, -7, -8. Use the distance formula to find the radius of the circle. So distance formula says that the distance from O to P squared equals x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and start with x2 minus x1. Now, the two coordinates are these. And the question is, does it matter which one I do is x2 and x1 or y2 and y1? And no. So I'm just going to pick this to be x1, y1, and this to be x2, y2. So let's see, let's do -7 minus the -2 squared, and -8 minus 4 squared. Okay, so that's going to make... So -7 minus the -2, that's going to make these positive. And so that's going to make that -5 squared plus -8 minus 4, -12 squared. And so, let's see. So OP squared is equal to 25 plus 144 is 169. And so OP is going to equal the square root of 169, or 13 units. Okay. On this problem, when you do quiz corrections, you can get full credit back on that one. All right. So in this one here, use special triangles to find the exact side lengths and leave it in square root form. Then determine each ratio values for angle P. So this is an isosceles right triangle, meaning these are both 45 degrees. And that's going to make this 12, and then this 12 root 2. And so sine P is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine P is adjacent leg over the hypotenuse. Tan P, opposite leg over adjacent leg. And the measured angle P, we can see, is just 45 degrees. Now here you can just say 1. And you can simplify those to be 1 over root 2, but leaving it in that form is fine. Okay. If you have the other version, you'll notice that they give you the hypotenuse is 9 root 2, and so both legs would just be 9. Okay. Simplify the following. So in this one, what you're going to do is try to find the factors of 75, right? So that's going to factor out to 25 times 3. And then 25 is 5 and 5. And so that means that the square root of 75 is the square root of 5 times 5 times 3, which is 5 root 3. Because when there's 2 5s in the square root, that just equals 5. Okay. In this one, this is going to be 5 times 5 times 2. Where did I get 5 times 5 from? Well, this is 25 times 2, and 5 times 5 times 2. And so that's going to be the square root of 5 times 5 times 2 minus, and this is 9 times 2, 3 times 3 times 2. So that's 3 times 3 times 2. And so, since there's two 3's, I can take, and there's two 5's, right? So that's 5 root 2 minus 3 root 2, which is equal to 2 root 2. And if you have the other version, it should be root 3. 5 root 3 minus 2 root 3 is 3 root 3. If you have version A. All right, so in C, we'll do a different color. When you have 27 times 21, what we can do is put them both under the same square root. And 27 is 9 times 3, 3 times 3 times 3. And then 21 is 5 times 3. So what we have is 3 times 3 times 3 times 5 times 3. So I have two sets of 3. And so two sets of 3 pairs. So it's the same thing as 3 times 3. And then what's left is a 5. And so, let's see, I can't really see. That doesn't look like a 5. Let's do a little better. There we go. And that is equal to 9 root. Oh, wait, hold on. Silly me. I don't know where that came from. That's 7 times 3. Okay, let's try that again. Times 7 times 3. I can do a little bit better. There we go. There we go. Okay, 9 root 7 is your answer. And I believe the other version would be 10 root 3. All right, so in 12.1, round your answers to the nearest unit for both 4, 5, and 6. Show your setup. So what we're going to do is which trig function applies? Well, for the 50-degree angle, this is the opposite leg, and this is the hypotenuse. So if you recall with SOHCAHTOA, opposite leg hypotenuse is sine. And the setup would be sin 50 equals opposite over hypotenuse. And then you go ahead and multiply both sides by 29. And 29 sin 50 is equal to x. So go ahead and get my calculator out. 29, oops, turn on. Make sure we're in the right mode. Yep. 29 sin 50 is 22.2. Oh, that's, yeah, 29. I don't know where 25 came from. 29 sin 50. So that's 22 is approximately equal to x, 22 centimeters. So round to the nearest unit means round to the nearest whole number. Okay, we'll go ahead and write SOHCAHTOA here again. So find the area of triangle ABC. And in this one, if you have the white version, I believe this was on the first page. And instead of 30, it was 10. But the process is going to be the same. So which trig function applies? Well, let's see. In order to use a trig function, we need a right triangle. And the right triangle that we have is right here. And so really, the problem is going to deal with this triangle where this is 65 degrees. This is H, and this is 15. How do I know that's 15? Well, the triangle is ABC. The triangle ABC is isosceles, which means that altitude is going to bisect angle B and also bisect segment AC. And so that's going to make these segments here congruent to each other. All right. So it looks like we're going to use tan. So tan of 65 degrees will equal the opposite leg divided by the adjacent leg, and then multiply both sides by 15, and 15 tan 65 is equal to h. So now go ahead and get that. 15 tan 65, 32.167. Oh. Okay, so 32 millimeters is approximately equal to the height. Again, round to the nearest whole number. And the area, well, that's 1/2 base times height. So 1/2, so 0.5 times 30 times 32 is 480 millimeters squared. All right. Next is find the measure of angle x. Which trig function applies? Well, in this case, it would be sine, because for x, you have the opposite leg and the hypotenuse. So sin x equals 15 over 17. So x is going to equal inverse sine, written just like this, of that ratio. And I'll go ahead and put that into my calculator. So second sine 15 divided by 17 is 61.9, or about 62 degrees. There you go. In problem 6, this should say problem 7, which is interesting because it says nearest foot, right? So we're just going to kind of ignore this here. And if you have the white version, version A, there isn't a mistake there. But if you have the yellow version, I should have accepted, for number 6, should have accepted either 62 degrees or also round to the nearest tenth if I didn't put a note in your quiz. Okay. Juliet is 13 feet off the ground of her balcony. So, and this one also, number 7, I would have accepted round to the nearest foot or to the nearest tenth. All right. So if you have the white version, instead of 13 feet, you have a different amount. Instead of 9 degrees, you have a different angle. But the process is the same, and a lot of it will be the same. So this is, we're going to draw the diagram, first of all. So Juliet is 13 feet off the ground. And then here is Romeo. And here is Juliet. And they're a certain distance apart from each other. Now the question is, she's at an angle of depression is 9 degrees. Now an angle of depression always starts at the horizontal, making that this here is 9 degrees, which makes that 9 degrees, since they're alternate interior angles, because these lines here are parallel, right? That's a transversal. Those are parallel. So this is going to be a right angle. And so we can use SOHCAHTOA to solve. So how far is Romeo from a spot on the ground directly below her balcony? So the distance here is x. That's that distance. From a spot on the ground directly below Juliet to where Romeo is x. So in this problem, should see this set up here. And then which trig function applies? Well, since we're dealing with the legs and not the hypotenuse, we're going to use tan. Since we have the opposite leg and adjacent leg. That's why. The setup then would be tan of 9 degrees equals the opposite leg divided by the adjacent leg. And then to solve, we're going to multiply x on both sides. And then divide both sides by tan 9. And let's see what we get. It's about 82, looks like. So that's going to be about 82, what? Meters, feet? Looks like feet. That is your answer. All right. Well, again, this is for the yellow version of the quiz. And if you have the white one, the order of the problems is slightly different, except for some of them, but the process is the same. Feel free to email me if you have questions about it. Otherwise, thank you for watching and have a good day.